Yo, what is up, guys? So, we're gonna actually be doing a little bit of a different stream today, and it's because something drew my attention. Okay, somebody pointed out that Xbox One doesn't have a lot of anime games, and I understand that's because, like, PlayStation gets most of them. And with that being in mind, I kind of just thought it was weird, because, Xbox actually does get a decent amount, but we don't get that many. I mean, like, we get a playable amount, just not like, I think we get, what, like 20 a year? PlayStation gets, like 4 or 5 times that. Actually, it's more like 2 or 3. But still, though, like, that's a big difference. So what we're going to be doing is, it's going to be a live stream discussion. It's just going to be really, not really complaining. It's going to be more like, we're going to describe what the perfect anime game would be on Xbox. And I use the term perfect loosely. We're going to be playing chess while we do it, so we seem smart. We're not smart. I don't even really know how to play chess that much. But, yeah, though, no, like, here's our main things. Like, I made a full list, and this stream is probably only going to be, like, 15 minutes long, maybe. It could be a lot longer. Like, I don't know how long we'll be talking about this. But anyway, with that explanation out of the way, let's start off with describing what a decent anime game would be like. Okay, for starters, if you're gonna start off in a world, like any world at all, whatsoever, like you could do it in the One Piece world, Black Clover world, Bleach, anything like that. If you're using an already made anime world, there is a problem with that. You're going to want to make it so that players can play as an already made character. In doing that, you were already limiting your game. Like, your game is going to probably be something small and beatable in a, like, small set amount of time. That doesn't mean it's bad. It does mean, however, that it's gonna get old quick. And I know some people are okay with that, but that is a serious problem. You need to make your own world and make it have world building. If you just copy off other anime not anime games, but you're just gonna copy the world of an already made anime, you're gonna feel pretty bored doing that, because there have already been games done like that for almost every anime. The next thing, though, that you gotta remember is you need world building. Well, if you're just doing, like, say for example you make a One Piece game, and it feels more like a filler arc of One Piece, well, you're doing something wrong. And, like, just flat out, a game shouldn't feel like filler. Now, though, next off, though, aside of our just, like, random stuff, the game should have customization. I'm not saying heavy-duty customization, but let's go ahead and use the example of the current upcoming One Piece game, because that's literally the most recent thing Xbox is going to get for a while. Oh, we missed that. Anyway, though, so here's going to be the problems with that One Piece game, and it's really obvious what the problems are going to be. Like, it's sad how obvious the problems are. The game's not going to have any customization, most likely. There's going to be a small set of abilities. And trust me, it'll be small. So small, in fact, that it's gonna be aggravating. Okay, if we leave that there, then he'll attack that. Okay, so, yeah, I mean, just no customization. You're not gonna be able to make your own character. You're playing as Luffy in that. And that's just gonna be... Yeah, it's not like they've done that before for every single game, right? And then you've got, like, so there's the character creation. That's one way to go about that. Or you could do where you use a different character other than the main character. However, you're already using a character that's already from the cast of whatever you're using. Which, again, limits your ideals. You kind of need to broaden your horizons by putting new stuff in a game. You can't just constantly reuse stuff. Okay. Then you need free roam. God, not awful free roam, though. You need free roam in the sense of it's just open world really big maps, but not terribly big maps. You need to feel open, but you don't want it to feel lazy open, like we're just a blank slate. Take Mirror's Edge Catalyst for an example. Mirror's Edge Catalyst could have been a great game, but it was god-awful. And the reason's because it was just a huge blank world you could free roam in, but you couldn't really do anything in. I mean, you had missions. You could try to do missions as fast as you can, but it wasn't really that fun to do that. Now, no, what I mean by free roam, though, is you could do free roam in the sense of you have just this huge open map. Like, you know, ridiculously huge. Or you could do it in zones. And zones is probably the simpler, easy, if it goes bad, it's fixable type of way. Hell, you could update the game and fix it a lot easier, too. Zones is, you don't have one huge free open world. You have maybe doors or portals or a teleport system that'll get you between different open world areas. That could be like different leveled monsters, enemies, whatever. Heck, they don't even have to be monsters, they could be humans. And you know, like the zone idea, the reason I say that's better than if you just went with free roam is because if you need to update the game, you shut down one specific zone and then the rest of the game you can update it. It's not foolproof, but I mean, it's better than having to shut down your whole game for updates. Now, though, another way you could look at this is... What's a good way to describe this? Okay, imagine Sword Art Online. I know, big no-no for how you want to describe a game to be. But, I mean, the Sword Art Online games, like, there were 2 that were okay. Yeah, about 2. Now, though, the thing with those is don't think about the Sword Art Online games. Think about the anime. So how was the anime set up? Well, let's check. Oh, we are beyond screwed. Okay, so let's check. You had a hub world, which was like your starter, floor 1. And then you had other floors that you had to ascend. It was either ascend or descend. I don't actually remember now that I think about it. It wasn't that memorable of an anime. But basically, though, you went through floors. There was always a town in those floors, and then there was the rest of the dungeon. Well, you could actually do that. Like, just different zones set up like that. A good example is if anyone's played Trove. Yeah. Trove's a bad example as a good game. Because while Trove is a good game, Trove is pay to play for the most part late game. So it's okay. And there goes our loss. Anyway, though. So basically the summary is, though, you could do that system very well if you just had it, you know, separated into little zones. And maybe for the free roam, make it so that you could either get around really fast by jumping or maybe movement speed as a stat or something. Now, the next thing is something I've seen on forums. I've heard people talk about it. I've played, like, One Piece Burning Blood. People in PvP talk about it. What we need is, if we get a free roam type of anime RPG, what we really need, above all else, is a leveling system that is not complete trash. I don't mean like you level up and your stats slowly go up. No, I mean we should get a leveling system just in general, an infinite stat system. Imagine it like this. So you've got, say, maybe strength for physical attacks, defense for how much damage you can take, or maybe HP, or maybe make it so that you have an HP stat, heck. And then make a speed stat. The speed stat would be so that you could get around faster, or maybe just attack faster. Then you'd also want, like, maybe a gun stat for using guns, or a swordsman stat for using swords. You know, the strength stat would just be for physical attacks with maybe hand-to-hand or clubs or something, or it would passively boost your sword stat or stuff like that. And, I mean, that would be easy to sort out. Then, maybe put in like a magic stat with its own little mana type or, attributes. Basically, though, what you'd want is instead of having an XP system, have a leveling system where it's your stats go up, boosting your character overall over time. Like, for example, if you run a lot, your speed stat should just go up. Not ridiculously fast, of course, but I mean, hey, like, it would give farming a fun little meaning to it. It'd also make farming fun because you'd slowly see progress. Of course, you'd want to make this reasonable. For example, make it so that your speed stat would go up by 10% of its XP bar by, I don't know, like 10 seconds of running. Okay, every level of your speed stat wouldn't have to bump your speed up by a lot, maybe just like 1% or 10% or 5%. Something reasonable, but make it so that long game, that's actually a lot. And the reason would be because, it's a free roam game. You'd want to get around fast. You wouldn't want to get around like broken fast. You could set a cap at when like somebody's teleporting, or you could make that a legitimate thing to where teleporting is part of combat. And if you put it online into the game, you could have a PvP where people can teleport and have cool fights. I mean, it wouldn't be that cool because you probably miss a lot, but still, I mean, if somebody got used to the controls and there was a system set up like that, eventually somebody would be decent enough to do that. Now then, the next thing, of course, though, would be you'd want a wide variety of weapons. They wouldn't have to put this out on release. They could add it in updates, but a good example would be like adding swords, clubs, bats, polearms, firearms. Different types of firearms could be different classifications of weapons, and you could obviously customize them. And I don't mean like the player could customize them, although that would be a cool aspect too, just making weapons look however you want off of weapons you've collected or anything like that. There's a few actual games that do that. For Honor was one. For Honor was a pretty decent game until, its fan base for the most part died. For Honor still has like a pretty decent sized fan base, but it's nothing compared to what it used to be. Trove is another good example. Warframe doesn't do this, however, Warframe does have multiple weapon types that you can use along with parkour, which would be a good system for an anime game that you can free roam in. I mean, seriously, it would. And if you had a speed stat, you could take it to a whole nother parkour level to where it's just a completely different, its own original type of game. Now, though, you could have infinite leveling with these stats, or just set it up so that there is like a soft cap. But basically, you don't want it to feel like you're leveling slowing down, but you do want it to feel like your leveling is giving you slow progress. The next thing, so like, like XP caps don't increase. The next thing you'd probably want is maybe just powers. Just like give somebody an ability. Like, hell, you want to make a One Piece game. Make a One Piece game where you can play as your own character that you make. You can find your own Devil Fruit, or you can just have your own abilities that you progressively learn as your stats go up. That makes sense. Same with a Bleach game. They could do that. It's pretty simple. Heck, you could do it with anything original, though, too. Like, for example... That's a good one. Okay, let's use the worst case scenario example. I know some people watch Black Clover. I know a decent amount of people have, actually. Now, Black Clover was, in all seriousness, the first few episodes made me cringe so hard. I felt like I was gonna cry. And it's not even in the sense that it was bad, it was just the screaming. And after a while, I got used to it, and it became more or less just funny at that point. Well, that being said, though, the concept of Black Clover, if you put that into a game where you could do basically whatever you want, that's a good concept. You could just slowly get stronger progressively for a ridiculous amount of time. Heck, that opens up a bunch of borders for what you can do in your game. But then, of course, there is, aside from powers, you know, a wide variety of enemy types. For example, enemies specifically that would be attuned for you having a shootout, or enemies specifically for sword matches, giant monsters maybe if you wanted to put a bazooka type in. You could do a lot of stuff with that. I mean, have maybe flying enemies, have ranged attacks like a boomerang or something. Or maybe you just have something that can shoot. So yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Now though, you'd also want skills that evolve with your stats. And what I mean by that isn't like, anyone play ESO? ESO is a good description, right? Right? Everyone loved that. Actually, Haikyuu, it wasn't that bad of a game. ESO was bad because they made things either too long or too short. Quest lines were too short. Literally, you did a quest line, it became irrelevant afterwards, you never talked about it again. Your friends completely forgot about literally almost any quest line. Nothing was memorable. And the game relied on quest lines, which is why that kind of became... I mean, in-game, nothing mattered, but... Yeah, like, you get the idea. ESO did a lot of things wrong. ESO was fun, though, if you had friends. If you played on your own, it wasn't really that fun. Now, though, that being said, though, ESO did have skills that evolved. Now, though, the way skills evolved, of course, was you use them more, and they get new forms. However, if you had skills that evolved towards your stats, it'd be more like, for example, say you've got the ability to throw a pebble. Well, that's pretty lame. That'd literally be one of the most boring things ever. So, you've got the ability to throw a pebble. Well, now imagine you've got your speed stat and strength stat up to maybe 1,000, or maybe just 500 or 100. Now you throw that pebble like a bullet at blinding speed. See, that'd be cool. That is something that you could look forward to. Or maybe, for example, you've got a blade stab. Okay, well, that's kind of cool, I guess. A blade stat, it's not the most original thing, but it could be something cool. Okay, so you've got your blade stat. Say, for example, at a beginner level blade stat, you can use every skill, but they're kind of like dialed down versions of those skills. And then once you get a lot stronger, say, for example, you've got an ability that makes a swing where you spin around in a circle and just swing at everything around you like a berserker. Well, that seemed kind of lame. Now, say you get a ridiculous strength amount, and now when you spin, your sword range is about 10 times bigger. That'd be cool. That'd be good for dealing with mobs. And then you could put in enemy types that would be in huge numbers. Same with like guns, for example. You could even put in like explosive shots, poison shots, homing shots, electric shots, basically any element type. And then you could put in like dual wielding and stuff like that for when you're even a higher like skill if you put like a dexterity stat in. So there are a lot of things you could do with that. So, cool concept. Now then... Oh yeah, okay. So, if you had a game set up, like literally what I just described, you wouldn't need a story. I mean, it's self-explained, you wouldn't need a story. Do you get why? Because the game is completely gameplay related. Meaning a story would be irrelevant. And is it bad to have an irrelevant story? No. No, it's not bad to have an irrelevant story. If a game doesn't have a story, yes, that means there's nothing driving the plot. However, if the game doesn't need a plot, well, that's good. I mean, seriously, you brought up Warframe earlier. You know what Warframe's successful at? Not its story or plots. Matter of fact, it's mostly successful with... what's the magic word? Gameplay? Yeah. Warframe is really good about its gameplay. It's good on the aspect that you can get everything for free if you're willing to put in the time. Which, I mean, it's a fair system. I mean, it's not ridiculously likable, but it's not ridiculously hated. I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to put pay-to-win items in the game. But, I mean, hey, you could have a pretty decent game with just that type of setup. Okay, and you know, like, no fetch quests, because Jesus Christ, why? Okay, so now then, we're gonna get to the online section. If you had a game like this, would you want it online? Me personally, God, no. God, it would be awful. You would have the worst time ever. Even if they had, like, even if the servers were great. This is best case scenario. Say these servers are beautiful and there's just nothing wrong with them. They function perfectly. The game runs perfect frames. There is literally zero things wrong. There is one slight problem. Well, you've made a game that people are playing unfair because the stats are kind of infinite. So obviously somebody's going to have an unfair advantage in PvP. If you made it free roam though to where people could team up on like really hard bosses, yeah, that'd be cool, but you should always have PvP on in a game like that just for the aspect of that'd be cool. It's just kind of like the whole stat thing counteracts the coolness of it unless you can also have the option to turn PvP off. And I mean, it could be skill based, but obviously if someone's overpowering in stats, skill won't even matter. And that's just like my personal opinion though, that I don't think it would be online. But if you had a game like that, could be. Now then, the last thing, and we're at 20 minutes, so we're good on time. We've only wasted about maybe 4 minutes of blanks, just, you know, given prep and stuff. The last thing that a game needs, if it's going for the anime community, if it's going for the gaming community, if it's going for any community at all, and it's trying to be good, you need a decent soundtrack. Now, what this means is don't stick with one music type. Okay, y'all see me playing a chess game. I've got just barely, and also I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a stalemate probably, because that's normally what I get in chess. Every now and then I win. It's just not common because I don't pay that much attention. Thing is though, take this game for example. You have soothing classical music, and that's okay in a chess game. That being said, whenever you get a game that has farming in it, or just progression systems in general, you want to be able to choose what music you're listening to. You don't want to be forced to listen to just garbage music. That's kind of obvious, but you need a variety. It only took 4 queens, but we won. Anyway though, you need a variety. You need techno music in your game, you need rock. It doesn't even need vocals, but you need multiple types. You need classical music for people that like that. And you may only need 5 to 10 songs of each genre. Heck, even rap might be good for it. But in a game that has free roam or grinding, either or both, you need decent music. And with that, that honestly concludes what you would need for a decent anime game, what Xbox needs for a decent anime game. And I'm hoping we get a game that fits anywhere near that description in the next 3 years. I doubt we will, because most anime games are made within about a year, maybe a year and a half, and they are normally trash. Like, obviously they're fun for a bit, but they stop. It stops being fun. And, I mean, they should be focusing on making a game that'll last, not just a game that's gonna fade and die out in a few hours. And I can only think of maybe a few games that are like that. Like, One Piece Dynasty Warriors. Or wait, no. That's not what it's called at all. But that's what it is. Yeah, no. Anyway, though, it's One Piece Pirate Warriors. Basically, though, that's the gist of it. You need a game that has good music. If it has online, it has online. You should be able to turn PvP on or off. It shouldn't be like you go into a PvP match and it's just 1v1. I mean, you could have those, but it's better to have it be free roam. And an infinite stat progression system is the best stat progression system. A lot of games don't use it because it's broken late game, but every game that uses it is beyond successful. If you want examples, look at nearly any RPG game made on Roblox. Yeah, stupid description. But any RPG game made on Roblox that uses that system has in the thousands of people who have played it. Most of them have in the higher hundreds of thousands of people who've played them, as long as it's, like, not buggy. Now then, better example, Dragon Age Inquisition. Yeah, and anyone who played that game had about 3 years worth of people playing it. And the only reason their fan base dropped under 10,000, which, by the way, over 1,000 people or 10,000-ish still play the game constantly. The problem is, they kept up a fan base of in between, like, if I remember right, it was roughly about 100,000 people playing constantly for the first 3 years. until they stopped updating it. Then it dropped down to about 10 or 20,000 for, I think, a year. And then it just became, like, dead. Like, yeah, 1,000 to 10,000 people still get on it every now and then. I get on it every now and then. But the game's dead. So that's the point. The game was great, though, multiplayer-wise, because it had that in it. And I mean, in a game like this, you could have a story mode, but it'd be better to not, if that makes sense. Or at least don't have the story affect your actual free roam, or maybe just unlock some extra customization stuff in the free roam. That would be a good idea. Personally, if you did go with the free roam option, obviously you should have, say, maybe you just lock yourself in this tutorial zone where it's noobs go in, anyone can go in though. And basically what you'd want to do is have it set in a way to where everyone starts there. It's like the hub world or whatever. You get a small tutorial and you can train wherever you want. And then you could just go out into different zones fighting things, maybe making friends. Heck, maybe even have a chat board. Just don't put in a censor to your chat board. Yeah, nobody likes that. Nobody likes a censor on their chat board. Little kids cuss, okay? That's kind of logic. Everyone knows that. Except, you know, some people. I feel bad for them. They don't know the reality. Like 8-year-olds cuss. That's kind of normal in the US. I know it's also normal in Europe. So, yeah, that's about it. That would be the description of the perfect anime game for Xbox One. And it wouldn't have to be based off of any anime even. It could be its own just anime-style game. Or, for example, it could just be a really cool free roam game, say Dragon's Dogma, except more in-depth. So, there's just a lot of routes you could take with this, but, I mean, it's not that hard to figure out what people like. You just have to ask the people. This is what people would like. Not Chess Ultra. But what I'm describing is what people would like. It's just the fact nobody's made it yet. For Xbox, at least. First person who does, they're going to make a lot of money. I mean, that's kind of how it works. Anyway, though, I hope that this was a fun stream. So far, we had 20 people in total who just came in and then left. Well, I mean, not all of them just came in and left. A few of them stayed for at least half the chat. Right now, we've got 2. But, yeah. So, I mean, like, you know, 20 people viewed it. It was only open for about 30 minutes. That's about average. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed that. And that's about it for this discussion video. We might have more if this gets, say, 100 views on YouTube or 200 views. So, I hope you all had fun watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.